Hi, welcome to Insights with David Munson. Another day talking with some people that are interesting to me. I've got a really interesting guest, a guy that mentored me into getting involved with helping poor people in a new and better way with the Greater Dallas Coalition and the Dallas Champions Academy. With me today is Ron Woodcock, who's the founder and chairman of the Greater Dallas Coalition. So Ron, tell me, how did it come to you to reach out and try to network North and South Dallas through the Greater Dallas Coalition?
Well, thanks for having me, David. I get that question occasionally, and it's not an easy one to answer. I have, my calling, I suppose, has been to work with the poor across the country and inner city America for over 50 years. So when I came back to Dallas about 15 years ago, I plugged into West Dallas, where a lot of transformation has taken place, as you know. And but the more I got involved, the more I began to look at the vast southern sector of Dallas and saw the immense challenges there. So I really didn't go in with any intentionality to start anything. I just went to give of myself and started meeting key people in the area and fell in love with them and just couldn't help but be really moved at the challenges that are almost on every level in the southern sector of our city. And of course, I know you're aware, David, Dallas is an interesting city. We're one of the most resourceful and glamorous cities in the world, but it's mostly north of the river, north of downtown. The southern sector is a vast wasteland of impoverished people, and it's quite a challenge. I know that most of our audience knows the city council, the mayor has really focused resources on that area, trying to pull it up because it's a huge economic drag on the city as much as human lives being wasted.
Yeah, well, some of our viewers may not be aware of the challenges Dallas has because they may live in other parts of the state or other parts of the world.
True.
And we try to share with people stories that can be used as inspiration for people to step forward and do God's work on earth. And that's really where you come in as a non-ordained minister of the Lord, spreading God's word through your actions and deeds.
Well, actually, I am an ordained minister, but nevertheless, I appreciate that, David. Yeah, it's, as I said, when I began to drive the streets and look, and you know, our Lord Jesus said to, he looked at the city of Jerusalem. He walked the streets. He was in the marketplace. He was on the mountainsides. He was with the people. And he said to look at the harvest field. That's what he used. And so when I began to see the suffering of the people, and that's not a word I use carelessly, it's really heartbreaking. You know, taking a lot of bishops and ministers and stuff to actually see the people in the plight that they live with. It's I always get the same response: we just didn't know. We heard about it. We just didn't know till we saw it. So again, just started to build relationships, mostly with small African American churches that have been down in the neighborhoods, working with the schools and families around the blocks for decades. And one of the churches we partner with is 110 years old and have seen many things, you know, that happened in the southern sector. Anyway, I heard this over and over. Well, Ron, we like you. We're glad that you want to come down and help, but we get this all the time. We get people coming in from other parts of the city, and they want to help, but when it gets really tough, which is always hard, there's nothing easy in the inner city, they just go away, they get frustrated. So I determined not to do that and promised them that I wouldn't, that I would stay for the long haul, and so we began to build trusting relationships, and over a period of about 10 years, we just partnered with several hundred churches, many civic groups, a lot of key leaders all over the city. So we structured the organization, called it the Greater Dallas Coalition, and it just grows and grows. And essentially, our mission statement says we are an organic grassroots missional movement established to transform the city spiritually and socially. And that just about covers it all. That's a wide thing. But we're all about uniting the church. We are a Christ-centered organization. We're about partnerships, strong relationships. Without those, you don't have anything, really, and prayer. And so we've built the coalition around those principles.
Well, and one of the things that I always enjoy, and it's very inspirational, that the coalition has a monthly meeting where people that are involved in helping South Dallas, both charities and donors, come together in a non-confrontational, non-soliciting environment where they can learn from each other and be inspired about the work that's being done in South Dallas and across the city. And so many times as a donor, you can't really get a real flavor for what somebody's doing and how they are without immediately getting a request for solicitation for funds. And I haven't mentioned that this program is sponsored by the Greater Dallas Coalition and the Dallas Champions Academy, and they would be very happy if you would go to their website and make a contribution on the donate button, and please leave a note on your donation that indicates that you saw it on the show and you've enjoyed hearing what you heard from Ron about the Greater Dallas Coalition. We just had a fantastic week-long camp with the Dallas Champions Academy. What did you think about this year's camp versus previous?
Phenomenal. It gets better every year. The Dallas Champions Academy is one of our jewel programs. Our partners literally feed thousands of people a month, and we give away thousands of items of clothing, thousands of new tennis shoes, huge outreaches at Thanksgiving and Christmas. But during the summer, our main focus is on our Champions Academy. As I say, this was the 8th year. We bring in 17 to 20 coaches, many with NFL and collegiate experience, great men of character, and we bring together 200 or so inner city kids from highly dysfunctional, generally fatherless families without much structure, so it's a real challenge. And so this year, as I say, was the 8th year. It gets better every year. It was really phenomenal. We had several former Cowboys come and speak to the guys, and some of the coaches were, raised in inner city LA and places like that, and they were even, some of the coaches before they went to college were headed probably for prison. So through the Champions Academy, we really have begun to focus down on scholarships, because I believe strongly that a huge answer to a lot of this is helping these inner city children and kids get their education.
You bet.
One of the problems is that our public schools are not preparing our kids, even in some of the better parts of Dallas. They're not really preparing our kids for college. So we've been really successful in identifying young athletes and young scholars and combining them with various colleges and universities, and it's really heartwarming, and we're getting better at that. So that's a big part of the academy, is scholarships.
Yeah, well, I had an opportunity, I hope you got to see last week, or go on demand and review the show we did with two of the kids who have gotten college scholarships through the Dallas Champion Academy's college football combine that they take the kids to, and we've gotten 15 full scholarships for young men who are breaking the cycle of poverty, and that's really exciting.
It's very exciting.
So the Dallas Champions Academy is really the most intensive part of the Greater Dallas Coalition that wouldn't exist if not for the efforts of the Greater Dallas Coalition, where we feel like it's a unique opportunity to reach young men and women at a very vulnerable age in their life when the wages of sin are very promising and many fall astray. So this is an opportunity to bring people back into a productive, good life.
Yeah, and we're focusing more and more not only on high schoolers. Sometimes it's almost too late.
Yeah.
By the time they get their patterns are set, some of them are already in gangs and et cetera, et cetera. So we're really trying to reach the children, because if we can get children's lives headed in the right direction, the earlier the better, and it keeps us from always being in a rescue mode. But we are really blessed. This whole thing with the Champions Academy actually started with one of our board members. We have great leaders that are with us. It brings us great credibility, and you're one of those people, David. But,
Well, I'm a newcomer,
well,
but I'm glad to be
really-
involved, and it's a
But
passion.
you've been with us for quite a while, although you just come on board in an official capacity. But you're very close friends with Carrie Bourne Headington.
Right.
And Carrie's a board member, and her husband Greg Headington's a board member. Carrie's one of the two women evangelists with the Episcopal Church, dynamic lady, and Coach Heupel, University of Oklahoma, is family by marriage. So that's how it came to us. Carrie and I were working together with the Justice Revival here, and we wanted to work with kids, and so we started with one day at Jubilee Park, and then had 2 more years at Jubilee Park, one at St. Philip's Academy, one at the Care Center not far from here, and the last 2 or 3 have been at the A+ Academy in Pleasant Grove. And
which has been a phenomenal supporter of the program, providing
Phenomenal.
a very good facility, and
phenomenal.
their
support.
founder is a board member of Greater Dallas Coalition.
That's right.
And really being
So
supportive.
even though a lot of our audience may not be aware of the coalition,
But
we
please
have-
do go to the website and learn more about it. We've got a great video on there about the Dallas Champions Academy. And whether you donate or not, we really hope you'll take time out of your day to go to our website and learn a little more about it. And so it's all just,
and maybe one of the
an
things
upward
I'd like to
swing.
stress with the audience is that our partners come from almost every stream of the church. It doesn't seem that in the postmodern world that we live in, if I can use that term, the tradition that we're raised in, it doesn't seem to be preeminent anymore. What matters is how can we come together as people following Christ and help change the world that He asked us to do with His help. So it really pleases me that the Episcopal Diocese is a huge contributor, and there's 75 churches or so raise food and funds, and many Baptist churches, many Presbyterian, just almost of every stripe, non-denominational churches. It doesn't matter. We just come together as one.
Yeah, at the monthly meetings, we have pastors that are street church up to churches that have large facilities and large congregations. But the majority of the pastors that come are non-denominational, and the Greater Dallas Coalition serves as a way that they could get together and network with fellow pastors on neutral ground.
That's right.
They don't go to each other's church necessarily, but they can meet together and network and fellowship at the monthly meeting. And they take time out of their busy schedule to do so. And
it's amazing how people seem to lay their own personal agendas down at the door. I mean, we just come together to help each other and to help our city. As I to help transform our city spiritually and socially. And it's amazing. And some of the best work, you know, I've heard Mayor Rollins on quite a few occasions talk about really the key to Dallas is the faith-based community. We had City Father with us in our last coalition meeting, and before the meeting he said, Ron, this is really appealing, probably the largest group of its kind in Dallas, but it's good because the city has thrown millions, if not billions of dollars at problems in the inner city with, his words, little effect. And if I named this individual, most people would know him. And I'm not denigrating that process, but like Mayor Rollins said, the key to the transformation of the southern sector particularly is the churches who have been down in the neighborhoods and still are. We have one little church that comes to mind right across from Dade School on Al Lipscomb Boulevard. The pastor's been there 21 years. Just a small church front. You wouldn't even probably see it driving by there. But they've literally gotten laws changed in that neighborhood. The apartments were full of drugs and prostitution, all kind of things. They got that changed. They work with the Dade School across the street. They do 2 food giveaways every week. I mean, they do phenomenal work day in and doing the Lord's work.
Well, and that's what's so inspiring to me, getting to go to the monthly coalition meetings and meet people that are in the trenches. And these are not people with big budgets. Many of them aren't even registered as 501c3 because they're just doing the Lord's work however they can. And, you know, that's where I would love to see the Greater Dallas Coalition turn into a funding conduit to help some of these small nonprofits, but that all depends on more donations. So as treasurer of the organization, I can assure you that your donation will be well spent.
Absolutely. And we are a 501c3.
And we are a 501c3. And if you mail us a check, I will send you a tax letter. So please go to our website and donate online or contact us about mailing in a check. We'd sure appreciate it, and we'd love to have validation that our efforts to market this program to you and provide inspiration to you, seeing how the Lord commands us to love our neighbor as ourselves and really reach out and let the Lord's love shine in the world. And that's what Ron has been doing for years. The Greater Dallas Coalition started out as a lunch group, didn't it?
Yeah, well, yes, it just started out really pastor to pastor, person to person, school teacher to school teacher, principal to principal. And we just started coming together because we would get I would be in a little Sunday school room down at True Lee, which is one of our partners. And Don and Deborah Parrish are great, great people. Family's been there for over 100 years. And Deborah Parrish and I would meet in this little Sunday school room, and she was one of the first ones that began to, tell me about the history of South Dallas, Fair Park, and all that. And so she'd get a call while we're there, and I'd hear the school would call and, we need 100 backpacks, or we have children at school today with no coats, or we have children today who the shoes are falling off their feet if they have any. And so, we began to try to just meet those minimal needs, and it grew and grew till now we, as I say, we get resources from Walmart and other places that help us. If you can kind of picture the coalition as a repository or hub of which resources flow into that hub, and then we disperse the resources
to the points of most need.
To exactly the spokes around that hub, if you can envision a wheel. It's exactly the way it works. So every penny, that comes in, we have very minimal salaries, almost no overhead because we meet our monthly meetings are at Cornerstone Church.
And they've been very generous to offer their fine facility for us to meet in.
So your money won't go to rent and electric bills. We just don't do that. So
we put all the money that comes in right to work doing the Lord's work, loving our neighbor into a better relation with God and a better life here on earth.
That's right.
And that's really where we're trying to go.
That's right.
And the only thing that limits us what we can do is the time and money that we have.
Or-
And we got more time, we just need more money.
Yeah, and of course more people resources, but more and more people are stepping up. One of the great downtown churches, we met with their pastor recently, and they have, I think the average age of that church is 68 years old. So like a lot of churches, they're aging and need a new infusion of young people. But 200 of these people are wanting to come down and mentor in the inner city, so we're going to partner with them. That's phenomenal. And like the Champions Academy, one of our main challenges is not just that week with the young people and the children, but working with them and their parents year round. That's a huge challenge, but we've hired Darrell Smith, which is our director. He's working full time, and we're having people step up to the plate.
Darrell's been on the show twice, and he has
phenomenal.
3 times. Has a great story to tell, and he's really doing the Lord's
really
work
fortunate
here.
to have him.
Yeah, no, he is such a resource, and as treasurer, the only thing I can say is we need more donations so that we can expand the ministry and pay our bills, because we're doing the Lord's work here on a daily basis here in Dallas. Darrell's out in the community, Ron's out in the community, really trying to make a difference, and has made a lot of difference so far.
Well, one of the heartbreaking things, David, that's really caught my attention, it catches everybody's attention, is the single mothers.
Oh, yeah.
You just wouldn't believe the circumstances that some of the single mothers have to deal with, 3 and 4 children. I've seen them packed into cars, kids sleeping in the cars, homeless, scraping for food, or stuffed in little shabby motels, maybe 3 or 4, 6 families, horrible circumstances. So demographic studies have been done in the southern sector, and up to, some of them say up to 90% of the homes and families that are left. Of course, there's been a lot of flight, in years past, to DeSoto, Duncanville, Plano, Richardson, McKinney up in there. But the families that are left, 90% of them are fatherless. So the single mothers, it's just heartbreaking.
It really is, and there's such a need for male mentors of young children.
Absolutely.
I'm a tutor at DISD helping children that are below grade level, far below grade level, learn to read better. I would encourage people to get involved, helping the disadvantaged in any way, because the disadvantaged are your neighbor, just like the affluent person is your neighbor. But the affluent person doesn't need your help, but they need your inspiration that you're showing Christ's love for others through your actions as well as your donation.
David, that's really well communicated, and we should say this. Even though I tend to focus on the southern sector, we are the Greater Dallas Coalition, and people need to know that there are pockets of poverty and need now all over the Metroplex. There are middle-class people, maybe some upper middle-class people, who through various circumstances have lost their jobs or health crises or whatever, never dreamed that they would need assistance. And there are a lot of them out there. And then of course we have a huge infusion of immigrants into the Dallas area. We're one of the largest, if not the largest city in the country now with immigrants flowing in. So again, the churches are stepping up. And but it's not just the poor of southern Dallas. There's needy people everywhere now.
Well, I think the listeners really need to ask themselves and ask their pastors, what is my church doing to help the needy? And as I tell people, one of the most important parts of the church service where people can give back is the offertory, passing the plate. And I encourage people to always put something in the plate as a token offering to do God's work through your church. I know our church, like all churches, has a few people that are big donors that really carry the church, and there's an awful lot of the congregation that doesn't hardly give any money at all, if any. So, doing the Lord's work on earth means putting your money where your spirit is. If you're spirit filled, you're going to be unable not to give. So we can't buy our way into heaven. God saves us by grace, but if we let the Holy Spirit into our life, it's going to be disruptive, just like it's been disruptive for Ron. Instead of pursuing commercial ventures and profit-making ventures, you've been devoting yourself to helping the needy because the Spirit has led you down that path, right?
Right, and I have to tell you, there's no greater joy. I can witness to this in my life. No greater joy than Jesus taught us to give and to serve. It really is the true way to peace and joy. If you have purpose in your life and you don't just focus on me all the time, me, and you just love people, it's immensely rewarding.
Well, no, and you've just got a lot of satisfaction, and Ron's always got a bright look on his face, and I'll tell you, Ron doesn't live in the material world. He lives in the spiritual world, doing God's work on earth.
And thank you, David. Well,
it's been a real treat to get to know Ron, and we always have a great visit.
Thank you, David.
So, when's the next coalition meeting?
I believe it's the 19th. I need to be careful with that. Maybe you can put
go to our website.
It's usually it's the 19th, I believe, of August. It's always at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday at Cornerstone Church, which is, I think, 1817 Martin Luther King, one of the great churches in the city.
Very easy to get to, right off the 175 exit off 45, and it's always a pleasure to go there. I hope that you'll outreach us. I hope you'll go to the website and review what we're doing. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have validation that you found this show inspirational and serving as an example of what you can do in your life to let God's life and love shine through your life. Because we're called to be ministers of His Word and carry on His works on earth. We're His hands on earth. Isn't that right, Ron?
That's right. That's exactly right. Working incarnationally, God in the flesh came, and somebody said if Christ came back, He would be with the people that hurt the most in our society, and I believe that. But we're His hands and feet now.
Thanks for having us on.
Well, you're welcome, David.